my Scotch and I. 'Cause OB is the guy. OB is the guy.
Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. This showcast is currently broadcast on 4 continents and 35 countries. We waited for 2 years, but it's here. March Madness is upon us. The men's tournament has started, and we already have a major upset with the 2 seed Ohio State falling to the 15 Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts were last in the tournament in 1974. Speaking of the 1970s, 1976 was the last time we had an undefeated team. Coincidentally, it was the last time both Duke and Kentucky missed the tournament. Gonzaga likes those odds, but I'm picking the blue and maize of Michigan. The women right now are rightfully angry about the accommodations, and even Steph Curry seems to be getting involved. There's no justification for the women's getting what looked like TV dinner while the men's sides get regular catering. The training facility situation is disgusting. The men's gym puts your local chain gym to shame. The women get one small rack of dumbbells that might have a max weight of 25 pounds. This is less than most home gyms have. I half expect to see Megan Rapinoe swooping in to try to save the day. Unfortunately, she is too busy dealing with U.S. Soccer Federation and their wage discrimination. The women's tourney starts on the court on Sunday, and UConn is not the prohibitive favorite. I'm going with the Lady Knights of Rutgers to win it all. Here to discuss the tourney is the host of Spanglish Sports World, both the English and Spanish versions, and producer extraordinaire here at Spanglish Sports World, Eduardo Harari. Welcome, Eduardo. How are you?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me, Obi. It's a pleasure to be on the most recognized show on our network.
Oh, thank you. Have you seen any of the videos of the women's accommodations? And if so, what are your thoughts?
So I cannot understand why would the NCAA not provide proper accommodations for this, what I would say the comparable better half of the NCAA tourney, because the women put out a great show, sometimes even better than the men in some occasions.
Absolutely. I was mind blown when I saw that little rack of weights. That's a nice rack of weights if it was downstairs in my basement, your basement, but when you're talking about 16 teams of women who have to work out, one rack of weights is not going to get the job done. And any day they miss lifting those weights and doing their work is a day that they're never going to get back. And it is just, I'm angry about it. And I could go on and on, but we are going to move on to the actual tournament. Maybe we'll get back to this, but it's a pain and angry to see it. Have you gone ahead and looked at your men's bracket and made some selections along the way?
Oh, 100%. I have made my selections. Actually, you will be very surprised with my last two, because I have gone up. Well, my alma mater will make it to the end, and that's Michigan, University of Michigan. The way they are seated right now. But from the other side, from the West and the Midwest, I have OSU getting to the final.
As in Oklahoma State University?
Yeah.
As do I. My Final Four is actually the two big stories this year, Gonzaga and Baylor. And then Michigan and OSU, who OSU had a bit of a scare earlier today, but they looked good in the last 5-6 minutes. So it sounds like we may have the same Final Four.
Well, I have. Let me look at my bracket here because I looked at it the other day, but it's interesting because I think that the bracket this year was done to perfection to try to get the big teams out early.
Yes. Yeah, well, and we did lose a big team already with Ohio State. And I got to say, I was back and forth between Ohio State and Baylor winning that game. And had I picked Ohio State, I probably would have taken them over OSU. So I'm very happy that I went with Baylor to beat Ohio State. I just didn't like the look of Ohio State, Michigan in the final. Just it bothered me, and I was right. You did say they did a great job at trying to get some of these bigger teams out early. But speaking of big teams that are out, do you think this tournament lacks any luster when we don't have Duke and Kentucky in there?
Well, I like the idea of not having Duke because Duke is always a very dangerous team. You never know what Duke you are going to get. Kentucky, on the other hand, makes for a lively tournament because they are a powerhouse offensively. They lack some of the defensive end sometimes, but their offense is just unreal. I miss Kentucky here.
Well, this is true. And the 1 year they win, of course, was the year that, not the 1 year, but most recently was with Anthony Davis, who I think during the game ended up shooting like something like 1 for 13, had 2 points and 10 blocks. And after the game, he said he wished he had missed his shot. The stat line would have been that much more impressive with all the defense he played, which goes to show how important defense is in this tournament.
For sure. You know, one of the things that I see in this tournament is that if you look at the games, the four matchups before the tourney started, you had a very interesting selection. You matched up UCLA against Michigan State. So that's what I mean by taking the big names out before the tourney starts. And it was a very good matchup. Last night, I enjoyed that game till the very end. But I thought that you are missing not 2, but you're missing 3 of the big teams that normally get right to the very end of the tournament.
You know, whatever went on with Pitino, that being said, you're missing 3 of the 4 biggest coaches as well. And that's what it is. I mean, Izzo, huge coach. Izzo's a huge coach. Calipari's a monster coach. And, of course, Coach K. We did get Pitino in. Right now, we have Villanova still in with Jay Wright. But, yeah, it's not just the big name schools. It's a lot of the big coaches as well. Are in positions where they may not make it through. And, you know, Winthrop was a very popular choice to beat Villanova this year, especially with Villanova having some injuries going on. Speaking of big choices to lose, we had Ohio State, like we mentioned. That was a big shock. But does their loss change the way you might look at the way the Big Ten is? Because the Big Ten had a lot of hype coming into this tournament.
Yeah, well, you know what? The teams from the Big Ten, and I have some surprises in there because you look at, well, one team is already gone in Ohio State. Then you have Wyoming. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there because I don't think all the Big Ten schools are going to get to the very end. I would say that you will have two teams making it to the Big Eight. But the teams that are going to be surprises, you will have a Florida State team, a Florida team that is going to be a surprise. They have been playing very competitively this season, considering the facts with the pandemic. You also have teams like Loyola, Chicago, that could surprise people. Bonaventure and Villanova, everybody knows that one of those teams are going to be there in the final 8 or even in the final 4. So, it's going to be a very interesting tournament, to say the least. And Indianapolis is going to get a big party out of it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, my big surprise team is actually a Big Ten team. I have Rutgers losing to Oklahoma State in the round of 8. Getting through the Sweet 16, beating Houston this weekend. So, of course, that's a little bit of my heart getting in the way of my brain, maybe. But I definitely had the movement forward. And I have UCLA taking care of BYU and then losing to Texas. But Texas is one of those Big 12 teams, which we haven't talked about yet. But that was the other conference this year that was quite impressive if you ask all the folks naming names. Obviously, you had Baylor, but then you also had Texas and some Kansas in there. So what are your thoughts on the Big 12?
So let's put it this way. Baylor, to me, has a very efficient team. The problem with Baylor, particularly, and here's where I see where I have a problem with Baylor, is that they haven't been consistent in their defensive game. And when you face some of these teams that are power teams in scoring, if you don't have you might get a big result against Baylor at the beginning.
Yes, that is. I mean, they took care of Hartford like Hartford was a 16 seed as they were supposed to, as did Illinois today. But I do hear what you're saying. I also am concerned about Baylor's health. As I've said before, we have seen some athletes get COVID and just deteriorate before our eyes. Both Cam Newton and Russell Westbrook seem to have longer lasting side effects than they did, illness. Even Jimmy Butler looked like he lost 10 to 15 pounds. It's taken some time to get back into the swing of thing with the Heat. Any thoughts on the women's bracket? I know it doesn't start for a few days, so you may not have made your bracket yet. But any ideas that you have going on there?
Well, you did mention at the beginning of the broadcast something about a team called Rutgers, and Rutgers is a surprising team in the women's side all the time. Nobody knows which Rutgers team is going to show up to the court. What they do know is that they don't give up that easy. So it's going to be. I have basically a Connecticut team or a Rutgers getting in there into the finals. But if I had to choose one right now, Rutgers to me are the champions of the women's division.
There will be some good times here in New Jersey if our Rutgers Lady Knights get all the way to the end. There'll be a huge celebration in the women's basketball world, I'm sure, for Coach Stringer. Absolutely. I also, obviously, I said I have Rutgers. I have them beating UConn and then facing Stanford, who I have beating Maryland. Definitely take a few more upsets in the women's. Not in the early rounds, actually. I take my upsets in the women's bracket later rounds. Those earlier rounds, I feel like the women's teams, there's more stratospheres, more layers between each of them. So, yeah. But, when one of my home teams is a 6 seed or better, I feel like I need to make that pick.
So
any other thoughts on the women's bracket?
Tell the truth, I haven't taken a deep look yet. I'm waiting. I'm probably going to do that tomorrow, and then make my selections. But always, to me, that in the women's bracket, it's always very difficult to pick because it's a very different game. The women play a very balanced game compared to the guys. They don't show off as much, or they don't try to make the big plays. They try to play very consistent and very forceful. I always found the women's game. I don't know if you remember Coach Woody from UCLA, and that's the type of basketball that they play. They play full court presses. They play zone defenses very well, which makes it sometimes very hard to pick who's going to win because they do the basics very well.
Yeah, I do find that when you watch women's basketball, you see a much more disciplined game. You see much more consistent play on defense for sure. They play to the strength of the coach's staff, not to their own individual strengths. Like you say, nobody takes they're less likely to reach out for a steal that's in a path that they're not going to get. But on the other side, they're less likely to make the wrong double team. They double team the right person. They leave the right person open. It is a much more disciplined game, and it shows up in the results, which is why I think there's more tiers because you're not going to have one person take over a game. And it may be because that one person is already going to be on UConn anyway, which is, of course, an incredibly disciplined team year in and year out under Coach Auriemma. So
one of the things that the women's teams do well is the 3, 4, 5 players in that backcourt. They play very efficiently. When you never see transitions that well performed either at the professional level or even from the guys. The women seem to have those positions very well established. The center position particularly is the way we used to see NCAA Final Fours for the men played in the olden days, where the center really played a key role when he had to get back to the play.
Do you think any of that has to do with the fact that the women are staying in the as many opportunities in the WNBA to get out and start playing, whereas the men are just rushing out? Do you think there's any of that plays into some of these things that you're seeing in the women's game?
I think the women are, how can I say, more mature in their way of thinking. They want to get as much out of the university or the scholarships that they get from the universities than just go out and play professional. They know that there is a lot of competition, and they prefer to stay in school rather than step out into the limelight.
Excellent. We obviously have some more time, so let me ask you a question. Well, this doesn't necessarily have to be about the men's bracket. We're going to use an example from the men's bracket here. So teams like both Baylor over Hartford and Illinois over Drexel, they were high seeds, and those games were never ever close. But every now and again, you get a 1 seed or a 2 seed that's a real nail biter. Even Oklahoma State, which we were both talked about, had a game that in the last 5 minutes was still up in the air. Do you think that what do you think is better for a high-seeded team? To beat a really bad team and beat them good so that they know that they're better than that team, or to play a game that tests their mettle so that if they have to go up against later on in the tournament a team that's equal to them, they know how to win.
So I always was of the thinking that if you try to show off by beating a team by 70 and 80 points, it doesn't make justice for you, because you are not doing or competing in the game. You are just trying to build up score to show that you have the might. And sometimes that comes to backfire on you, because then the other teams start seeing your weaknesses deeper into the tournament. So it's obvious that some teams try to do it. I remember the old UNLV teams that tried to run up the score on the first couple rounds, and then they went and faced a North Carolina, or they went to face a Duke, and then they saw what true competition was, and they know how to respond.
If you were a screenwriter and you were writing a movie about this season, at this point, we talked about it hasn't happened since 1976 when a team's gone undefeated, and we have Gonzaga posed to do that. If they win the tournament, they will obviously be undefeated. On the other hand, we have Michigan, which has the return of Juwan Howard at the coach, and he can get that win that the Fab Five never got. Another note, he's the only member of the Fab Five to ever get an NBA championship as well. Which of those two stories do you think really is the way to go, and it would resonate more and last longer for the year before the next big sporting event?
So I am not going to show bias, because I am a grad from Michigan, but I think the story of Howard as a coach, going back to his alma mater to coach them and actually progressing into a win, shows more than the 26-0, because we know that the 26-0 wasn't played in full action the way the season will be if we have a full season. So and let's remember that, was it 7 years ago, Gonzaga wasn't the team that is today. Gonzaga was the Cinderella team. So going 26-0 for Gonzaga doesn't surprise me. They are a good school. They have learned how to recruit well, and they are in the Pac-12. So the Pac-12 this year wasn't very successful at all. So I would say Howard's story pans out better, and it'll attract more people, especially in the Michigan area, where the situation with COVID has been very heartfelt.
Fair enough. I think there's a third story I didn't mention, but is less likely to happen. But if it does happen, will be a better story than either of those two stories, and that's the other coach that has returned to his alma mater, and Patrick Ewing. This shocking win of the East tournament. But that's just not going to happen. That team's not that good. That team wasn't the best team out of their conference in any way, shape, or form. They just went on a little run at Patrick's home.
Well, I have a surprise for you. I'm looking here at the scores right now as we speak. At halftime, it is the Clemson Tigers only leading by 3 Rutgers. So Rutgers might just play a surprise story here if the game continues in the same way.
I have complete faith in Rutgers that when we get off of our show and I sit down to watch the last 5 minutes, that the Rutgers Scarlet Knights will be winning today. I've been saying that all along. again, it's probably the heart more than the brain, but like you said, they certainly are within striking distance. There's some good games going on right now as we speak, and the Rutgers game, of course, is one of those games. It would be a nice upset. It's the first time they've been in the tournament since 1991, I believe. So that is a good story there as well. They got their coach back in football and Shiano, and now they're making some noise in basketball. Although they would have probably been in the tournament last year as well had there been a tournament. Do you have any fear of COVID, or do you think the bubbles will be successful for this year?
I don't know. It's a tough situation right now. It's a good thing that they are bubbled up, that the teams are bubbled up in their. But I have my fears. There is too much going on. The players will be players. They like to enjoy their time together, especially when the tournament. That's what March Madness is all about. It's a madhouse. We have another upset already. North Texas has beat Purdue.
Yeah, I think that's going to break a lot of hearts as well, for sure. I don't think. How badly did I do with that? I don't think it's as bad as my Ohio State game. No, because I had North Texas losing to Baylor, so that's not as bad as that Ohio State game, at least for me. But Baylor's run is getting easier and easier as we speak because we have an injured Villanova team. They get to play the North Carolina team that has not looked spectacular. And now it's Purdue, Villanova, or Winthrop before, Texas Tech, maybe, Arkansas, as opposed to Ohio State, maybe even Florida. So they're seeing some of their bigger names they're going to have to face falling away. And that's good news if you're Baylor. You got to feel, you can't look ahead, but you have to feel confident that your team, that you're in positions to win when you see those upsets happening around your bracket.
Well, what I consider this an upset. I don't see it as a true win. Wisconsin over UNC. UNC is normally a team that goes deep into tournaments. This year they have been playing very bad though, and an 85-62 bashing by Wisconsin, that takes the cake.
The whole ACC was just when North Carolina is a team and Duke is a team, the ACC is going to have trouble. That's for sure. I mean, I don't think much of Wake Forest this year either. I don't know if it was COVID. I don't know if it was the new rules with kids not having to go to college and being able to go straight to the pros. But we definitely saw a lot of the blue bloods who had learned to run with the one and done philosophy suffer this year. But they also all got great recruiting classes. So when those same teams are now starting second-year sophomores who have the pedigree, it will be interesting to see what kind of rebound we have with the full coaching schedule for Coach K, for Coach Cal at UNC, at some of the other ACC schools. Even Syracuse. I mean, Syracuse top scorer right now is Boeheim's son. That just tells you the level of player that they have. Not that he's a bad player, but he's not Carmelo Anthony either.
So I have a question for you. Florida won today 75-70 against Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech is a tough team. If they cannot beat Virginia Tech by more than 5, how are they going to match up against the teams that they are going to face in the next round? Because it's crazy.
That's what I was asking. But sometimes that tough win just builds character. Now, Virginia Tech lost Appleby. I don't know how long he's going to be out. He took an elbow to the head. They had to take him off the court, sew him up, put stitches on. I did not see him come back into the overtime. They did not look like the better team all game. Whereas some of the other games that were close, like Oklahoma State, just looked like a better team all game. Just couldn't necessarily put the dagger in. But I do think that's going to be a problem for them going forward, because maybe they're just not that good. On the other hand, like I said, you can rebound from those situations. That's what it's all. That's what you're trying to do out there anyway. I try to figure out what those one game means, and I don't know what it means all the time. Jitters, these things are real things.
So tomorrow we have one of probably I would consider this the game of the tournament in the first round, and that's Bonaventure LSU. They match up pretty well. They actually saw action against each other in at the NYU tournament, and in that tournament it was LSU beating Bonaventure. So where do you think how that match is going to be?
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be all 8-9 games are 8-9 games. They should be close games. Like, you usually don't get a blowout like you had with Wisconsin over North Carolina. LSU, the strong team. The Big East may or may not be down, depending upon what you think of what happened in the tournament. I'm taking St. Bonnie's as the 9 over the 10, but they're 9. I'm 9 over the 8, because the 8-9 games are toss-ups. That's what they are. Just like we're going to have with Oklahoma and Missouri. Who are you pulling through in that game?
I have to go with Missouri. I think Missouri deserves it. They played a tougher bracket during the season this year, and they even went out of conference to play there weren't many teams that went out of conference to play for this year, and Missouri traveled all over the place. They went to Colorado to play a tournament. They went out to New Mexico. So they played a very interesting season this year.
And what do you think about two teams that are related by one coach, Mr. Shaka Smart? Texas in the East, and then, of course, the interesting game, Oregon VCU.
Oregon VCU. I always liked Oregon. Always. I don't know why Oregon has always twisted my head around, and I always choose them, and sometimes they let me down, sometimes they go the right way. But they are a team that has a proven defensive squad, and I like tough defenses. I always say tough defenses make great matchups, because the opportunities that they create is what wins ball games.
Excellent. You can find us, me, my Scotch, and I, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and YouTube, all as me, my Scotch, and I. On Twitter, it's just Scotch and I. We look forward for you following us on all our social media platforms. Now, Eduardo, we're going to put up some slides here. You have an advantage over our typical guest, as you know what these pictures are going to be about. This is the fashion portion of our show. So we'll get those slides up in just a moment, and we'll start taking a look at them. Excellent. So our first athlete we're going to look at is RG3 out of Baylor, because for better or worse, Baylor is one of the big teams in this year's tournament. This is his draft day outfit. He was the Heisman winner, and he is Baylor's all-time leader in passing yards and touchdowns. Of course, he had on these great socks, if you recall. But what really brings this outfit together in my mind is the beautifully cut, light-colored suit that a young man can get away with wearing. He does a great job here of playing with patterns. And that red power striped tie is just great in my mind. What do you think of RG3's outfit here?
So I like it. It's not often that you see young people these days wear good suits and well tailored. The tie, I could do without. But yeah, I mean, the socks. I would really take them away, but that's a different story altogether.
Well, with the socks, you don't necessarily see them unless he pulls them up, but they also do go great with those shoes. Speaking of shoes and ties, let's take a look at our next picture of RG3. And here we have RG3. He's in check again, but this time it's on the sports coat. Again, a light color, light gray khaki pants. Light color seems to be what he wanted to do when he was a young man. He continues to rock a subtle pattern. Here is a check on his sports coat. I do feel like if you are going to wear sneakers, which he's doing here, you should be a little more casual on top. You should match that look. So the sports coat is great, even a suit, but lose the tie, in my mind, if you're going to go with the sneakers. Your thoughts?
I agree with you completely. The tie doesn't go with the sneakers. One of the things that I like about is the pants are really tight, so it makes him look a lot thinner than he actually is.
Yeah, because he had some massive legs, and he does kind of hide them a little bit, and we'll really see that if we pull up our next picture of RG3. That's a sandwich next to his knee, for anyone who can't read that there. But here he is. Again, this is all during his rookie year. And he decided, on a completely casual outfit. It's a perfect casual look even. Simple golf shirt with a loose-fitting jean. And as you said, he wears those loose-fitting jeans. You don't see how powerful his legs were because they were massive. His legs were definitely, especially for a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, RG always knew what to wear for what occasion when he was in university. And one of the things that always characterized him was wearing the golf shirts and that type of shirt that showed his arm strength.
Yeah, for sure. So you talked about how a few years ago Gonzaga was a Cinderella, and I've said over the course of the week that at one point in time Gonzaga used to bust everyone's brackets. Then people caught on, and so everyone started picking Gonzaga to be that team that shocked the world, especially when they had Morrison. But they could never get the job done. So when I was looking for what athletes we were going to talk about, I looked at Baylor, because Baylor has definitely been a story of the season so far. And then I looked at Gonzaga. And so in this next picture, I was shocked to find out that this guy went to Gonzaga. There's John Stockton. He was a Gonzaga grad. He in 83-84, he was a WCAC Player of the Year. Shockingly, he's only number 5 on their all-time assist leads, although he does have the highest assist percentage. This is his draft outfit. He's doing a nice job here with a wool coat and a knit tie that go well with the striped shirt, which, of course, is totally an 80s look for him in this 1984 draft class, which just one of the many people that was passed up for Sam Bowie. What are your thoughts on Stockton's look here in 1984?
So I don't think his look has changed since 1984. he's still the same guy. He's always very classy. He has never changed that. His tie, I will put a little bit of a brighter tie, maybe, but aside from that, it looks great.
Yeah, it's funny. So as I've been doing this, I always like to grab if the guy was a first round draft pick, his draft picture. And as I said last week, I guess in 1984, nobody was worried about capturing the looks that these guys are wearing, because now especially the NBA draft, what the suit that these rookies are going to wear. It's such a big deal. Probably started by your boy, not Howard, Rose in his draft. But
Jalen, Jalen was a big shocker with his looks. I still remember going through campus when Jalen was in school and watching his outfits. It was just disastrous.
So if we go to our next picture, we're going to find one I promise you're not going to think is disastrous. This is a late 90s post-game shot of Stockton. You should always look comfortable when dressed casually, and he definitely looks comfortable here. I prefer a full zip on a jacket, but he does have the half zip. And the one thing I can't complain about is the contouring under the arms always helps you to look your best.
So I am trying to figure out if that was his choice or his wife's choice.
There is a little bit of, I don't really want to be wearing this right now. It's hard to tell.
I mean, I think this outfit was picked by his wife, and she told him, "You can go with that outfit anywhere you want."
All right, we got this is our last picture of John Stockton that's about to come up, and this is from 2004. This is the day they retired his number. You can even see someone there with a sign. I love this double-breasted jacket on him with a super thick tie. I also, if you look up at the top of the jacket, it's laying perfectly flat. Between the collar of his shirt and his jacket are beautiful, sharp angles everywhere. We haven't been on the air for long, but I think this is the best suit look that we have presented so far in any episode, especially this season. So what are your thoughts on John Stockton getting his number retired?
He deserves it, definitely. He one of the best players to ever reign the NBA courts. I think that he deserves anything that recognition that he gets. Now, the suit is very, very businesslike. I think that probably he was thinking more of retire my shirt, retire my number, and give me a position in the front office.
I don't know if he was thinking that, but that's what the suit says. When I say this is the best suit, Luke, this is professional to the max. I mean, we've seen some casual suits even with RG3 today, but this is just, this is a $1 million look. This is a guy, you're right. He wants a job there, or maybe he's planning on going to Wall Street.
That's right.
And I'm noticing now the young girl, who's I imagine is his daughter, with her nice pinstriped suit as well. So kudos to her. That's it for our picture part of the show. This show can be heard on the Spanglish Radio World Network. Please check us out at http://spanglishworld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World Sports World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. If you follow our network, you may have seen me this week talking about my whiskey collection on the network. Well, Eduardo was quick to let me know he had a rum collection. So today we will be comparing a whiskey and a rum. If you are ready, Eduardo, let's start off with the Chivas Regal. It is our whiskey, specifically a Scotch. So out of Scotland. Give me the pour and take a look at it. Very nice golden color.
Give me 1 second. I'm just going to open it.
Absolutely. I will continue to admire this. It is really nice, crystal clear, light gold. Yes. I should have told you the trick is to open them before the show. To leave the top on, but open them up.
It's solid.
Yes, it is.
Give me 1 second.
Sure,
Let's taste it up.
Okay, give it a nice smell. That is vanilla. Creamy, little lemon.
Very nice.
Definitely. A little pepped up, a little allspice, maybe some banana in there. You'd think you would get that with the rum. A nice light spice and tail. And as it sits on my tongue now, a nice sweetness. I like it. Like it a lot. Always have like Chivas. So what do you have going on here at the network or anywhere else before we get to the next drink that you want to share with us? You can open your bottle while you talk to me about what you have going on.
So tomorrow, if everyone got at 11 o'clock, I will have my show, which is Spanglish Sports World Live. And we have tomorrow, I have two versions of the show, one in Spanish and one in English. Because we are introducing new members to the family of Spanglish Sports World, a soccer show that will be debuting starting on Sunday at 8 o'clock at night. Is the World Soccer Report, and the other show will be the English show. It will be showcasing a new boxing show brought by a gentleman that is a trainer and an sparring partner to many of the great boxers in currently.
Excellent.
So that's going to be my end tomorrow. Tomorrow as well at 1 p.m. Please the return. Watch Spanglish World and Spanglish Sports World and the Her Network, because Elizabeth Rosistan, the great athlete from the great gymnastic athlete and Lithuanian, three-time Lithuanian champion, will be returning to our network to give us the best of the gymnastic world, and currently working on debuting with the World Championships that are going to be happening in 2 weeks.
Oh, I cannot wait to get her as a guest. You've just excited me. I'm looking forward to get her as a guest here. For sure.
Yeah,
right.
She's a bright young woman attending Ryerson University here in Toronto, and one of the most dynamic speakers on multiple sports, hockey, basketball, everything, but the gymnastics stuff that she gives you captivates you.
Excellent. So I fear I'm going to say this wrong. It's Ron Zacapa Centenario.
So Zacapa Centenario.
Zacapa Centenario. And
Yes.
I got the Sistema Solera 23.
That's it's a 23-year-old rum. You will find this rum very appealing. Is one of the only rums in the world that you cannot put Coke or anything attached to it, because it is just impressive.
Well, it smells already like there's cola in it. It is just a sweet candy smell. I love it. Oh, that is wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. Sweet
Obi,
all the way through, like spicy cinnamon. It's great.
So, let me give you a little bit of a background on this rum, because it's comes from my.
I was gonna say I get the education this time. Awesome, excellent.
So this rum comes from my home country of Guatemala, and it's grown in the mountains, and it's actually a mix. What they do is that it's made from sugarcane, but it's bottled up in cedar wood, and they will not release a bottle before 20 years has transpired. Zacapa Aniversario is one of the best rums worldwide. It's probably considered in between the first 5 in the world. So
well, I was going to say, I noticed there was a Solera, which for those folks who don't know, that means that you keep mixing the ages so that you age it for X period. You have, we'll just do a simple one. This is a 23-year-old, but like you might have 3 barrels, and you put the first barrel there, and you put it aside. And a year later, you make another barrel, and now you have a 2-year-old barrel and a 1-year-old barrel. Then you get a third year. Now you have a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old. You take some of the 3-year-old, you get rid of it. You then put some 2-year-old into the 3-year-old and some 1-year-old into the 2-year-old, and you start a new bottle. And you just keep going that way. So this bottle we're drinking, 23 years old, could have alcohol in it and flavor in it from 50, 60 years ago. How, again, paying however long they've been doing it. And 23 years is, at least in the whiskey world, there's one Solera that's done by Glenfiddich, and that's a 15-year-old, which means that in whiskey, the youngest thing in there is 15. I'm not sure if the same rules apply, if it means the oldest or the youngest is 23 for the rum, but it's magnificent.
The youngest is 20. I actually have a bottle of Zacapa that is 75 years old.
Wow.
So I think I'm going to make a rum drinker of you yet.
You're not going to stop me from drinking whiskey, but you're not. It's not. This is not tequila where I'll be like, no, thank you. This is definitely good. This is going to go in my house. I promise you. No one. This will get drank. Absolutely. For sure. Straight too. None of this Coke. Or the other thing we do with our rum, usually like a regular Bacardi straight rum. That's how we make our vanilla here. We buy our own vanilla bean and we make vanilla extract with rum, but not with this rum. Nope, no touching that.
No, this rum is very, very special. Next time that you invite me, I'll bring you another one out of the Dominican Republic called Brugal, and you will taste the very, very different. It's called Brugal Superior, and it's a golden rum that is actually fermented with mango.
Interesting. I cannot wait. I love how you're pushing yourself on to the next show, because the best way to get to me is through my mouth. Good man, wise man. Again, you can find us on Me, My Scotch and I on Facebook, Me, My Scotch and I on YouTube, Me, My Scotch and I on TikTok, Me, My Scotch and I on Instagram, and of course, just Scotch and I on Twitter. Thank you, Eduardo, for joining us. Follow us live on Zingo TV, channel 250, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Spanglish Sports Net, Spanglish Sports World, and of course the Her Network. Hopefully we made the Her Network proud today a little bit, talking about the atrocity that is one rack of weight for a whole 16 women worth of basketball.
Thank you very much, Obi, for having me. And I just have to say, keep doing the great job you are doing. This show will get national very soon.
I appreciate it. Can't wait. We have lots of fans already. Also, you can catch me with a very special guest Tuesday on the Sports Den. His name with Scott Churchin. He's got the voices from Dragon Ball Z A. For those of you who know what that is, he's got Lawrence coming on the show. We're very excited to talk Formula One with him.
It's a show with Obi and his rocking hat. If this was the 90s, he would be all that. It's me, my Scotch, and I, 'cause Obi is the guy. Obi is the guy.